So I'm going to go ahead and start the Mishimoto intercooler pipe kit install. I'm really hoping I don't have to remove the bumper. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's just a pain. There's a lot of little hardware to take off. I don't want to try to do it all by reaching under. I know it's possible, but that's more of a pain than it's worth. I'd rather remove the bumper. So what I'm going to try to compromise, I'm going to pull the headlights out, and I'm hoping you obviously have enough room when you pull the headlights to get to the fog lights. And I'm hoping I'll have just enough to get to the IC clamps without having to remove the bumper. We'll see, but I have to take the headlights out to remove the bumper anyway. So I'll either get halfway there and figure out I got to go all the way, or maybe I'll find a shortcut. So I've shown how to take these off before. Pop the electrical connection. We'll just pop, Phillips pop, the T30 Torx, slide it back and rock it out. Actually rock it out this way. You actually do get access. You can barely see it right in there. There's the T-bolt that I put on when I did the whoosh front mount. So I think I'm going to try to go it this way. I mean, I can get my arm in here pretty darn good and should be able to get it released and get the pipe on. So maybe able to do this without taking the well, you can definitely do it without taking the bumper off, but maybe able to do it fairly easily without taking the bumper off. We're going to give it a go. So what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of removing what we need to. Up here, we've got to pop this guy off. It's part of the evap system. Pop this guy off just so we can get a little more access to the worm gear right here on the throttle body. We're going to take him off. We're going to remove the map sensor and then the other evap on the hard portion of the cold side pipe. Take the clamp off down here on the cold side of the intercooler, and then we should be able to, and there's another bolt under that I'll show you on the hard pipe. Be able to take that guy off, and then we're going to remove the hot side. Just barely see it down there. Hot side pipe at the turbo. There's two bolts that hold the rigid portion to the oil pan, and then we're going to remove it from the intercooler. So I'm going to start getting things taken apart. So I gave in and decided to take the bumper off. I got my arm nearly stuck in there, so just trying to reach in and figure out what size the T-bolts that I had in there already were, so it's not even worth messing with. So start getting your bumper off. There are one up here. Let's see if we can get it. Video. There's one up there. You can barely see the outline. Right here. Let's see. It's hard to get in here with the wheel well. Shoot. Well, anyway, there's another bolt here. So these two, the one here and here on the splash guard, are Torx, and they are, let's see, I've got the bit right here, T23, I believe. There's a 7mm bolt here, and then further in, there's a pop clip you have to remove. So you have to remove all those guys in each wheel well. Then you're going to go ahead, and the fun part is getting in to the joint here. So actually, after you remove those, there are, shoot, I forgot how many, probably 8, somewhere around 8 7mm bolts. You got 1, 2. You don't have to remove anything on this guy. You just got to remove these two right here, and all of these 7mm that go around the bumper lip. So let's see, there's one there. So it may be something, including these guys. It looks like it's about 7 7mm around the bottom lip. And then you're going to, if you already have the headlights out, you still need to remove 2 more Phillips plastic pop screws right here and right here. And then the hard part, inside the main bolts that are holding together. There's 3 nuts on there, and it's an 8mm. So what I did is I bought this off of Amazon. It's a rotating swivel joint. It's not like a regular U kind of swivel joint, but it rotates like a ball and socket, and it's magnetic. So I put that on a spring extension, and you have to get in. Grab my light. You have to get in to these guys. I've got some painter's tape on here to protect the paint when I'm in here. There's 3 of them in here. You see there's one there, and one under. You can see the gap in the fender liner. So what I do is I get the two top ones, that guy and that guy, from the engine bay, and then I come around under and get the last one from down. There's a hole up in here. I get it from under there. So that's kind of the biggest pain, is getting those guys out. If you don't have some kind of swivel, you're gonna have a heck of a time. I don't think it could be possible, but get something like this off Amazon. I think it was something like $8, maybe $10. It's actually, I think, meant for an impact driver, because it's got pretty substantial neck on it. Here's the, see if I can get it right there. There's the part number and the brand. And then you don't necessarily have to have a spring extension. I think this gives me a little more flexibility, but definitely this will make the process pretty painless to get it out. Okay, so we have all 7 of these 7mm body fasteners out. There's 2 here, and this little rubber corner comes loose. One right here, one in the middle, and 4 more on the other side that are identical. We have from the splash guard, we have the 2 Torx, 1 7mm body fastener, and the pop clip out on either side. And we have the 2 Phillips pop clips out up top. So now we're going to go ahead and remove the 3 8mm bolts that hold the actual bumper to the body quarter panels. The bottom side bolt down there. See if you can see my sockets in there. And then you can kind of see my wrench hanging, ball running right through that hole in the splash guard. So I don't bang it into the quarter panel, that fender a lot. I actually run the handle towards the inside, just reach in and just take it slow. I recommend taking the top. I've already done one of them. Taking the top bolt out, take the bottom, leave the middle in. So take the top and bottom off both sides, leave the middle in, and then run back around and take the middle out as you drop. So once you have all your bolts out, you should have a gap now between the quarter panel and the bumper. Gap on both sides. Make sure you have your fog lamps disconnected. Make sure you have all of your clips out, all 7 of the 7mm under, and all your fender well hardware out. And then you can go ahead and carefully pull the bumper forward. Have something under it. Well, it's up to you, but I like to put something nice under it so it doesn't get rested on the garage floor. So go ahead and pull it off. Your bumper is free. It's amazing how dirty these things get on the inside. But there it is. There's the intercooler installed a while back. I don't have a video for that. I had to start making videos then. Give you a view of what we had to zip tie those guys on that support, or that splash pan, because the bolt was going to scratch the crap out of the intercooler. This thing has, let's see, at least 5,000 miles on it, probably closer to 7,000 miles, and you can see it is holding up quite well. There's really not a lot of damage on the front of it, so yeah. So now we're going to go ahead and see how much better the access now is to these. It was well worth just taking it off to get to these guys. This will be a lot easier to take the T-bolts off. Make sure we've got everything lined up nice. It's good to see too that they didn't slip out. See, the factory hose is held right in place. I had a problem with that using the factory worm gear clamps. They kept sliding out, so I replaced them with the T-bolts and it worked like a charm. So we're gonna go ahead and start removing the piping and bring the new Mishimoto stuff over here and start getting that installed. We have the T-bolt on this side loosened. On the cold side of the intercooler, we just loosened up this nut. Not sure what size that is. 13mm. I want to get this guy off. And now we're going to pop the map sensor clip, which is right here. You can find the clip for it. It feels like the buttons. I'll have to take a look around the other side because you can't quite find the button, but you got to pop this guy. And then up over here, I'll probably get it from the top. You've got your evap line that you got to pop. And then we're going to go ahead and remove this. So once you fish your cold side pipe out, you're going to want to take off your map sensor. It's a 7mm
bolt that's on there. Get that guy off and transfer it over to your new cold side pipe. And they provide a bolt for it in one of the clamp bags. So we have the block off cap installed for the sound composer, and we have our map sensor installed. This is a 10mm bolt, and the worm gears are 7mm. So we're going to go ahead and get the throttle body coupler, install that, and then run this pipe up into it. You're going to want the 2.5-inch T-bolt clamp for the top portion of the coupler and T-bolt clamp tightened down. You're going to want to go ahead and put on your cold side pipe, or your cold side coupler, silicone coupler, and the clamp. Don't tighten that yet though, because you may need to adjust. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the hard pipe portion. I have a Mountain Tune radiator installed. There isn't nearly as much space, and I have the larger FL 400 filter, oil filter. It probably would have been easier if I took the oil filter off. I need to do an oil change anyway, but I was just determined to do it without taking the oil filter off. Anyway, so I found it easier to mount the throttle body coupler to the hard pipe, then bring it up, because I couldn't get, because of the lack of space, I couldn't get it engaged very well. The coupler kept folding over on me, so I ended up doing it the other way around, and it wasn't too bad. So we're going to go ahead and button everything up. Okay, we have our cold side pipe complete. Make sure you tighten up all of your clamps, both your, you should have had your worm gears for your bypass, your supposer bypass tightened already. I had to move mine, and that's something to keep in mind when you're doing this. This, the supposer worm gear clamps, if I can get it to focus, they're really long. They're used kind of a one-size-fits-all, so either you're going to want to cut it off or angle it so it doesn't run into this electrical harness back here. It has a nice plastic cover, but you still don't want it leaning up against anything to wear. So it's another thing, make sure that all of your clamps that are sticking out don't rub into anything. Make sure you have your evap, your map hooked back up, and your two other clamps tightened. You see how I got the alignment. You want to, this pipe, or this coupler has a slight angle to it or slope to it. You want to tilt it inward a little bit to get everything to line up nice. So that's the cold side. I'm sure it'll be a lot easier for other folks that don't have an upgraded radiator, because probably the lack of, I don't know, half-inch, I don't even think it's an inch thicker, maybe a half-inch makes a big difference. And if you need to do an oil change, you may want to just take your oil filter off, because it'll give you a lot more room to slide this guy up in there. Anyway, we got that taken care of. We're going to do the hot side. So to start the hot side, I'm hoping this will be a lot easier, because we just have the clamp on the intercooler, and we've got to remove this hard pipe here and then disconnect it from the turbo. There's a clamp up above back there. So all very accessible, nothing being crammed in between the radiators. So I'm hoping this will be a little easier. You can see here's the cold side pipe. It is much bigger than the stock. And see how much clearance, how tight it is. I put some silicone tape around my pipe here, because it actually touches the fan shroud, and I'm going to try to minimize any kind of rub that'll wear away. I think it'll wear away at the shroud first because it's plastic, but put that in there, maybe it'll get rid of some noise, and it also protects this coolant lines laying right up against it too. I don't know how I feel about that, because it's almost putting heat into the pipe, because that coolant's going to be pretty warm. So I don't know, hopefully we'll watch the intake air temps. Hopefully that won't make a difference, but it's real tight in there. Bolts holding the hard pipe on the hot side to the oil pan are 13mm, and it's 7mm for the clamp. So you're just going to take those two off and get the clamp, top clamp up in there off. And I already loosened the intercooler side, so we're going to take all that off and take the hot side pipe out. We have the hot side pipe off, and we're going to go ahead, get the new hot side pipe and prep it up for installation. So we've run into a snag with the hot side coupler. The T-bolt clamp that they give you is definitely undersized. Unfortunately, I don't actually know if there is a clamp, an intermediate clamp. This is a 42 to 50. I feel like you need something on the order of a, let me rephrase that. Is it undersized? Yeah, it's undersized. Because what happens, you actually need one that's intended to run a larger diameter, because it pinches up right about this kind of gap. I'm shaking a little. And what it does is it causes the coupler to buckle. And I'm not going to trust the seal when you can visibly see the coupler buckle and you don't have like even full flat coverage on it. So it's not the way these are supposed to function. I'm trying to find a bigger clamp. I have a bunch of T-bolts, but it seems like everything else I have is a little too large. I'm not sure. So this is a 58 to 64 millimeter, and this goes to 50. So there's an 8 millimeter difference. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to cinch this guy down more. But if not, I'm going to take one of the worm gears from the original hot side pipe, and I'm going to go with that, because I'm just not going to trust a T-bolt that's not, where the ring's not fully slipped in. And another thing about the size of this is it's small enough where it makes it a real pain to get it on. This coupler doesn't go on the hard side tube or the hard pipe easily at all anyway. The only way I could get this end of it with this T-bolt up onto the outlet of the turbo was to put this on first, but because it's so difficult to get this guy onto the pipe, I couldn't get a good surface area to get the other T-bolt on. So I'm going to try a better clamp up here, and maybe that'll solve all the problems. Okay, so I'm definitely recommending that you either size up a different T-bolt clamp. Again, what was this one? This one was 42 to 50, so I don't know, maybe something on the order. Actually, I'm trying to think, oversized, larger, I'm not sure if that's going to help or make it worse, to be honest. It needs to be designed so it has a smaller closed diameter. So I guess it's either a different design where this lead, you could probably use the same T-bolt, but it has a longer cover lip, or probably something on the order of 40 has a small size. Let's see, this is the worm gear I'm going to use. This came off the stock pipe, and this is a 40 to 55. So on paper, this is sized right, but I don't know. It makes it nearly impossible to get it on, and I don't like the fact it pinches. I just don't think that's going to be good. I mean, this is going to provide, even with the clamping, you know, how it's made in here, it's still going to provide a much more even clamp than the way this was gapped like that. That's just, what's going to do is it's going to cut into the silicon and maybe cause a leak too. So we're going to go with one of the stock worm gears up top. That should allow us to put this back onto the pipe before we get it in there. And I'm hoping that'll make it able so I can get the T-bolt on this side properly. And then the other thing I'm going to do, I used, now this kit I believe was supposed to come with some kind of grommet, at least their online instructions show that. Now luckily I have this leftover bushing from when I did a transmission shifter base replacement. I can't remember if this is from the base or I think it was from the plate, the cable plate in the engine. Anyway, I'm going to use that, but I'm also going to take a flat washer that I just had. I'm going to run it up here so it has a nice flat base, because that little aluminum tab, I'm going to use the washer in conjunction with this little piece of rubber, and hopefully I can compress it enough so it all gives a little bit of isolation and it has a more solid base to ride on. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so we have everything buttoned up now. Got the coupler tightened down to the intercooler. And we have everything tightened up under the car. I ended up not using the grommet. Maybe that's why they don't supply it anymore, because there really isn't enough room for it. But I left the washer under there to give it a stable base, and used the stock nut because it actually was able to engage the threads a little better. And everybody's tightened up under here. That worm gear clamp, the original one, worked out so much better. yeah, so it's all good. Everything's tight. I can't honestly say if I would recommend this kit or not. It fits, but it's a bear. And yeah, I've got it on. So maybe it'd be a lot easier if you had a regular radiator, but most people doing this kind of stuff are probably going to have an aftermarket radiator anyway. So I don't know. That part was a pain, but more so, I'm not really happy with some of the clamps they provided. You know, it's a mod kit, or it's a tuner kit, so gotta take what you get. But anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and put the bumper back on. Bumper off. I picked this up a long time ago. It's a Velossa Big Mouth Gen 3. Somebody was selling it locally for very cheap, so it was too hard to pass up, so I bought it. And I've got the bumper off, so what the heck. I'm running it's off right now because I don't want to get any crap on it, but I'm running an open element filter, so this really won't do much, but figure what the heck, if I do end up installing the airbox again, I'll have this guy in there. So I just use my finger and mark the cutout in dirt. And we're gonna take a Dremel and we're gonna have to cut this piece out because it has to sit out here, sorry. And you gotta be able to snake it back up through. So we gotta cut some plastic off. So a little creative cutting and this thing goes in pretty easy. The hardest part I think is gonna be getting the nut back up behind here. To tighten that bolt in. That's not bad, I just got my hand right up there. So cool, I'm going to go ahead and clean up these edges a little bit. Nobody will see them, but it just bugs me. I'm gonna clean them up a little bit and bolt this guy down, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the bumper back on. Here's our final hole. Cleaned it up a little bit. Took a little more out of the top just to make it nice and square. And then just vacuumed everything up because it was a big old mess. So we're gonna go ahead and put the snorkel back in. So this is another one I'd say that may not be worth the price of entry. I guess it depends on how obsessive you are about things, but to get that nut back there, you have to get awfully close to the AC condenser. See, I got lucky. I didn't really tear up any fins, but you got to be super careful. And it is a real pain to get that nut in there. There's a little shelf, and I ended up putting the nut through this side under, but I put it in my fingers upside down because when you hit the shelf, it flips over. So I put it upside down so it flip over the right way. And then to get that nut tightened, other folks may have found a way, but I could not find a way to get a wrench up under here. So I took that flexible coupling and my 10 millimeter, let's see if you can see it right there. That little bit of white, that's where the nut is. I ran a towel over my radiator and I ran that flexible coupling in there and tightened it down as much as I thought was reasonable. You can see there's still a little bit of a gap there, but actually it looks like it bottomed out in a couple places, but this is all plastic anyway. So this thing, it's not going anywhere. So that's it. I'm not sure if I'd waste my time doing it. Spend the money. I mean, it may help at high velocity if you were using an airbox, but if I had known it was going to be this much of a pain, I probably wouldn't have done it. So now we are going to go ahead and put the bumper on. Okay, so once you have all 6 of your main screws in, these guys, 3 over here, and you have 7 lower trim screws and the 1 poppet, 2 Torx, and the 7 millimeter bolt on either side of your splash guards. You want to make sure that you plug your fog lights back in. So you got to make sure, check those. I've already plugged mine in. Let's check them again. Oop, check the flag lights. And then once we know those are good, we're going to go ahead and put the headlights back in, and that will wrap it up. Step is get your headlights in, plug them in, and I have my air filter off, so I put that guy back on. We're all set. So we've got the new intercooler pipes and Velossa Big Mouth installed. Did notice that even though this is the Gen 3, this area is a little bit elevated. It's not too bad, but see, the pop clip doesn't completely seat. It's not horrible though. So that's it. it's all wrapped up. I'm not sure if I was going to do this again. I probably would definitely not do the big mouth, especially given my setup. And those IC pipes are a real pain, so you really got to want them. Anyway, this will probably be my last install for a while because I'm running out of things other than a turbo upgrade, and that's a little ways down the road.